letting everyone in. Here we go. Here come the people. Welcome, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. As you're coming in, just really big warm welcome from us and inviting you to find your chat button. And it would be lovely for us to know in the chat where you're tuning in from. Just going to keep playing Bouncer for a minute and let a few more people come through. Hello. Yeah, I'd love to hear in the chat how everyone's doing. If you want to know, if you know and you want to let us know what day of your cycle you are, you can let us know what day of your cycle you're on. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Hi, Angela in South Devon crew. Quite a lot of South Devon on the call. Yes, more Devon. Yay. Amazing. Yay. Oh, wow. Hi. Hello. Day 22 in New York. That is very cool. Do you live in New York, my love? Hello. Yeah, you live there. Awesome. Who did you hear about the summit through? Love to know.
Through Nisha.
Oh, through Nisha. Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
You guys
from
are
celebration. Yeah, through Celebration Day for Girls. We're facilitators. Yeah.
Yes, amazing. Oh, gorgeous. Well, welcome. That's fun. Yay. Okay, I think for now that's everyone. It seems like everyone's just going to be coming through in a minute. So I'm going to get things started, and I'm really so thrilled to be welcoming Erica and Joe to the Women's Health Summit this evening to talk about how we can support physical and emotional pain using oils and products from doTERRA. This felt like a really powerful aspect to cover as part of the Women's Health Summit. And if you're watching this and you don't know, we've been doing a series of calls throughout the past few weeks, and we've covered the map of womanhood. We've looked at supporting our menstrual cycle. We've looked at supporting pregnancy, birth, and beyond. And I feel like I'm kind of going to forget what we've covered now. But so many amazing things, and still a couple more to come. So we've got this tonight. We're also going to be looking at the menopause, how we can support ourselves naturally through the menopause as well. So much incredible wisdom shared. And tonight, yeah, we've got Erica and Joe, and they're going to have more of a kind of conversation style, which I think is going to be powerful. So I don't want to take up too much more time. I will just say that you can pop some questions in the chat as we go. If things come up for you and you want to let us know in the chat, that's lovely. But also, if you want to stay on at the end, we will stop the recording. You'll have the opportunity to ask some questions if you want to, and that is completely optional, obviously. So without me taking up any more time, I'm going to hand over to wonderful Joe and Erica to talk to us about supporting physical and emotional pain.
Lovely. Thanks, Dot. I'm going to kick us off by doing a little introduction. So I'm Joe, for those of you who don't know me. I'm a mental health nurse by training, and I've been doing that for about 12 years now. So emotional pain is kind of what I'm paid to deal with, really. So I'll kind of be bringing my experience kind of in dealing with that from that kind of more medical model and kind of psychiatric model to this kind of conversation. I've worked in acute settings with mental health, so on wards where people are kind of significantly struggling with their mental health. I've worked with children, I've worked with autism, ADHD, I've worked with young offenders, I've worked with people in crisis, and I've worked with kids in special needs schools. So that's kind of like an overview of kind of where I've been. Look, don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore the NHS. You know, not only have they paid my bills for the last 12 years and kept food on the table and a roof over my head, but I have the pleasure of working with lots of amazing souls who, you know, really want to help people. But what I've noticed in kind of my 12 years of being part of that is some limitations to a quite broken system, which we're going to kind of touch on through our kind of conversation. Thanks, Nisha. So Erica has a story to tell us. So I'm going to Hannah.
Always got a story. My name's Erica, for those that don't know us, and I'm a holistic health practitioner based in Devon, though I'm originally from Newcastle. I opened my business 2 years ago, and my business came about because of my journey with removing myself from the NHS treatment and learning about holistic health practices. Meditation, Reiki, and oils have been like pivotal in that journey. So for many, many, many years, I have suffered, and that's probably the best way to put it, suffered with hip pain and mental health pain, both of them colliding together. The hip pain started after the birth of my second daughter, which was in 2003, where my pelvis was dysfunctional. So everything got moved around and it never went back how it should. And it took a long time to even kind of be able to walk steadily on my pelvis because it was so weak. And then it's always been like there, and with it being there and with it being so chronic, my mind got attached to the pain, which led me down a path of like depression and anxiety, because I was just constantly in this pain frequency. That's all my mind could focus on, was the pain. And because I was going to the NHS for support, I was prescribed all sorts of medications for pain and for my mental health, including ibuprofens that caused such damage in my body that I ended up with a stomach ulcer. I was on tramadol, I was on beta blockers, antidepressants. Then I was on medication to try and heal the stomach ulcer. So it was like this constant cycle of all these really, really intense medications to try and help me find balance in the body again. And this all came to a head in about February 2017, when I actually said to my husband, bear in mind at this point, my body was in pain, like my hip was in pain. I had all these stomach pains going on. And the doctors at one point told us that I might have cancer of the bowel. And it was just all of the medication in my system. And then like my mental health was atrocious. I was suffering with panic attacks. I was on beta blockers for my heart. And by February 2017, I said to my husband, I don't want to be alive anymore, because I just don't see the point in being alive anymore. And then I stopped myself at the end of that sentence and I went, that's absolutely, that's just not true. That's not true. Like, that's just not actually how I feel. It's like what my body's saying, that like it's not got any life in it. And I actually didn't, like, that's not how I wanted to do. So I done something that I don't recommend anyone do, but I'm a fire sign, so I'm a bit all in. And I went cold turkey and I just stopped all pharmaceutical medication. At that point, I was already starting to like meditate to try and calm me energy bodies down and just find some balance in my life. And I completely stopped all of the pharmaceuticals and started meditating regularly. And within about 3 weeks, I would say I was starting to kind of come out of it almost. Like, 'cause imagine that's how long the medication would have actually started to kind of really coming out of the body. So within 3 weeks, I was finding balance again. I still had an enormous amount of pain in my body. I was still suffering from panic attacks, but my actual, like, I felt balanced again, where I could actually cope with what my body was speaking to us, rather than just masking it with more and more pills, or looking for something beyond what I could do internally myself, and taking this medication. By 3 months, I was actually in such a stable place with my mental health through meditating daily that I actually felt ready to try for my son, who's now 5, because what I now know is that obviously the chemicals of the pharmaceuticals were imbalancing us further. So by the 3 months of me not having those chemicals in, I was actually able to come down to a level that my body felt like it was ready to carry another child. Everything was great. And then at about 6 months into the pregnancy, my hips royally went. Pelvis dysfunction again, so my pelvis split. I was in a massive amount of pain. This carried right the way through until after I had Isaac. He was induced early because I just couldn't cope with the load of like the weight of Isaac be in bed in my hips anymore because my hips are on such a disc thing. I wasn't taking any medication or anything by this point. So I had Isaac, went on a healing journey again with my body kind of trying to find balance, still carrying all this pain, like working with the mental pressures that I was going under. And then at some point, I started practicing Reiki. And through the practice of Reiki, again, I was able to release a lot of the tension in my energy bodies. And that taught me a lot about releasing the tension in my hip as well. And then along the pathway again, a little bit more, I met the lovely Emily at a fair in Totnes. And she was like really, really celebratory of everything that I'd done so far. And then she was like, have you heard about these oils? And I was like, I have heard about those oils, but I haven't tried them yet. So she invited me along to a Soul Hub session with Dot one autumn morning. And I got introduced to Deep Blue. And the moment I connected with this oil, I was like, I don't like that. Straight up, don't like that. And Emily was like, that's because you need it. So within a couple of weeks of that Soul Hub, I bought some Deep Blue. I didn't buy a membership. I didn't like subscribe to the oils properly because I was so like in this weird place with pharmaceuticals and medicine, and I still hadn't really connected with what the oils were and the potency of the oils. And the transformation that happened during that process of me working with Deep Blue for even just a couple of days was so unbelievable that it literally took us a while to integrate what was happening and how it was happening. So I'll be working with the Deep Blue rub on my hip and things. And not only was I releasing all this pain from my hip, which I could actually feel it like literally just releasing and going, but I was having all these clearances emotionally as well. And when me and Jo were doing a little bit of research today on the different oils that are in Deep Blue, because again, I was just using it off what Emily told us. She was like, try this. And I was like, okay, slap it on, because that's what fire signs do. And we were looking into the different properties of them. And it was like even more illuminating how these oils work with us on so many different levels, because energetically, well, all physical manifestations start as energy. So, and I know from my past that from being a very, very young girl, my feminine energy was wounded and I was in a state of constant anxiety. And that's where this pain is actually held. It's on my left-hand side in my hip, which is where the feminine, like your feminine root. And because that area has been so unstable for me my whole entire life, the different energy imprints that have round up around that, not just with the hip pain itself, but the emotional pain that came with it was also starting to release with the Deep Blue. And it was getting to the point that I was working with it so much. And then I started to think, well, actually, I need this oil in other places as well. And I started working with it over my heart center. And it was actually only when I started working with it over my heart center, I was like, oh, I really like this oil now. I really like it. And I've gone from it being like, I really don't like that, to it being one of my favorite oils to work with. And I do work with it daily almost still. And like what I've learned through the process of working with the oils and working with Reiki and understanding the energy bodies and understanding how physical manifestations of pain actually begin as energetic ones and emotional ones, it really opened me and Jo up to a whole conversation about that. When you are an NHS patient, we are wildly underdiagnosed but incredibly overprescribed. And that was like the main thing that
talked, didn't we, about how in training there's just a real gap. A real gap in terms of, you know, what medics and nurses are and other kind of allied health professionals are taught around the body and how it functions. You know, if you take kind of more mainstream kind of medical model and general nursing, that's kind of one aspect. the mental health side of it. So, you're already kind of stepping out into, I mean, psychiatry has been kind of labelled the woo-woo cousin of medicine for many years. It's still a bit of kind of guesswork and a bit of, does this work, does this not work? So you're already kind of stepping into the unknown when you kind of delve into the mental health and into the psychiatry. But even then, everybody's different. You can meet one person and they have a particular experience, and then you meet another person. And what the medical model has done is tried to put boxes, for them to fit in, rather than looking kind of beyond what symptoms they're presenting with and looking to the kind of root cause. And there's a real lack of that there was a lack of that in my nurse training. And I think, in lots of medics who are very kind of medical model and in the kind of physical health stuff, like, oh, you come with this symptom, this medication is indicated. This medication gives you this side effect, so we need to give you this medication. And that's what kind of drew me to the oils, really, was because there's no side effects, and the potency of them, and that's the other thing I love about them, is the different levels that they support you on. So you've got them on like a physical level in terms of treating symptoms. Lots of the oils that are in the Deep Blue blend are analgesic, pain relief, anti-inflammatory, that sort of, from a physical point of view. But actually, if you look at a lot of the emotional and spiritual properties of them, they hold your hand in kind of confronting and kind of looking at all those kind of painful traumas or messages or wounds that, you've gathered over your lifetime that have manifested in physical pain. And, when we do see that a lot, or I have seen that a lot in my career, of people who've got chronic health conditions, autoimmune diseases, lots of those being women, our girls, there's a theme here, isn't there, about suppressing ourselves and not being heard, and our symptoms not being taken seriously, being given medication that's not really fit for purpose, and there's no seeming kind of interest in understanding the root causes or the deeper meanings of kind of why we respond the way we do to life and stress and all of that sort of stuff. So that's what I love about the oils, that, and that's why I went looking for more after 12 years of kind of existing and being frustrated with a system that doesn't really serve the people it's supposed to serve. Don't get me wrong. If I was in a car accident, absolutely send me to ED and save my life, please. That's what it's there for. But in terms of managing pain and managing chronic conditions and managing anything kind of below that kind of severe trauma level of ED and all of that sort of stuff, there has to be more, and there is more. And what I love about it is it gets to that kind of that root and that kind of reason of why you're holding that in your body. And there is some writings about that in terms of psychiatry. There's books about the body, holding trauma, and so it's thought about and it's known about. But the frustration for me is there's no service in the NHS that actually looks at that in any depth or will work with you in that way. So there's NHS will get you so far, and then there has to be more. And this is,
that's it. When we're at school, we learn about like the physiology of the body, and we learn about the bones and the organs and the different systems. But what we don't learn about is the subtle bodies, the energy bodies, and that's what's actually missing from the NHS, the understanding of the subtle bodies and how much they actually impact the physical bodies. And what's really beautiful about working with the oils is not only do they affect us on a cellular level, but they also really interact with those subtle bodies, which is why they work so quickly. And that's what people seem to, one, don't know about, or two, they seem to forget, because when they're buying little bottles of essential oils from the shop that they're putting into the bath, all they're doing is having a nice scented bath. They don't realize the potency of working with these specific oils, because of the potency of them working with the different energy bodies and the different ways that they balance. It might be that, yes, I've got all this stuff going on in my root, and which has caused this instability, but actually certain oils and certain profiles of oils within the Deep Blue or within the other oils that I might choose to work with will also assist the subtle bodies in balancing, which brings about a greater sense of healing in that particular chakra. And it's like you said, that working with the NHS, we are very much working with just the body, and we're not working very well with the body, because the medicine that they provide us with doesn't work as well on a cellular level as what the oils do. And then
Yeah,
when
definitely.
we work with the oils as well,
It's water-based, the medication, typically.
yeah. And then when we work
Yeah.
with the oils, we're working
Right.
with these at an oil-based level, which is obviously going right into the cell. Then the mind, because the energy bodies are being stirred, and we're working with the plant spirit and the plant consciousness. And then at a soul level, like it increases with frequency overall. And it's these missing parts of this information that we need to know, because actually when we take a pharmaceutical, it's actually reducing with frequency. And what we want is the frequency of the body to be as big as possible, because that's where the healing happens. That's where we're at homeostasis. That's where the body can regenerate quicker. And if we're just putting more toxins into ourselves, then we're actually depleting the body and we're actually doing the opposite. And I very much agree with you what you said. Like if I fall over and like my leg's got a big gash in it, I'm going straight to the hospital. But then what am I going to do when I get home? I'm going to work with the oils to cleanse my body of all the stuff I've had to take in the hospital, and then support the area a bit more with the oils as well. So it's having this balance of what's available to us, and then also allowing ourselves to access more. Like you said, it's knowing that there's more available, and we're not just pigeonholed into this place where we've got to go and ask the pharmacy or go and ask the doctor or go and, we can actually educate ourselves and have it available to us at home. I think one of the other things that you just touched on about there is missing the connections to like the root causes of pain, which again, when we work with the NHS, for me, I felt like no one ever explored the root causes of my pain, because they didn't know what it was. They just wanted to put a label of what it was and then give us something to pretend to take it away, when actually what we needed to do is get into that root cause and release it at an energetic level there. And I know that you were saying this about some of your clients and things, or patients, about how you could give them like any kind of placebo, and they would just take it and believe that it was true.
Yeah, so some people are so subscribed to that medical model that actually the value to them in the medicine is in the taking of the medicine, rather than any impact the actual medicine is having on their body. As a particularly anxious person who myself and Claire work with at the moment, who it's the value in, I feel unwell or I feel off or I feel this way, and taking this pill makes me feel better, even though the pill, the actual effect that it's having on the system isn't making her feel better. It's the taking of it. It's that placebo. It's that thought process. It's that mindset shift that's actually making her feel more settled, rather than anything that the tablet is doing. And people with pain and emotional pain and physical pain, they quite often get stuck in that kind of victim mentality, and they feel done to, rather than kind of taking ownership and taking kind of responsibility for seeking out other options and things like that. And so one of the frustrating parts of my job can sometimes be having those conversations with people about, this has to come from you. If you're not in a space where you can address the pain in the way that it needs to be addressed, you're going to be stuck in this situation kind of in perpetuity, if that makes sense. Because if you're not in a place, you've got a support network, you're relying on helpful coping strategies, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is you're using to mask that, if you're stuck in that and you've not got the support network or the resources around you to look at what is, the root cause of that, you're not going to see the difference that you want, and that you've called me up to tell you about my magic wand that I don't have. I missed that day on my training where they gave out the magic wands, unfortunately. But that can be another difficult conversation to have with people who are struggling with their kind of physical pain and with their emotional pain, is that I don't have all the answers. They have the answers, but it's their ability and their willingness to tap into what needs to be healed in order to move.
It is. I think we touched upon this morning when we were talking about the victim and creator mindset. And I know for a long, long, long time I was stuck in the victim mindset, probably rightly so for some of it, because I was unaware of my ability to move out of that. And there was a lot of things that did happen to me from childhood onwards that would put anyone in that state of like, why on earth is this happening to me? Why,
Okay.
like, I'm a good person. Why is all this stuff happening to me? Unbeknownst to why it was actually happening. But it's having that ability to move from, okay, I can identify that I'm not in a good place, but I've got this that I can do that will make me feel better. And it's almost like people sometimes they can't connect with it, that they're allowed to feel better because they're in such a low place with a victim mindset. And that's one of the things I love about the oils, is that they clear that away, because you can't actually sit in victim mindset when working with these oils. You cannot, like, it's impossible. You cannot sit there and feel sorry for yourself and then use some of these oils and carry on feeling sorry for yourself. It's impossible, because the frequency of the oils is so big, it clears all of that out of your field regardless. And we also talked about, like, healing's got to be self-activated. So it's all great and well-being us going, oh, you could do this, you can do this, you can do this. But if that person isn't then going to then go ahead and do the thing that they've been recommended, or the thing that they've been, given or taught or just activated to do it, they're not going to get anywhere, because they are still just sitting there. So it's got to be something that's really, really self-activated, where you are seeking and also willing to receive.
You have to live it, and that's another conversation I have with people every day. In my other job, is that I tried that therapy, and my answer is, but are you living what you've been taught? Do you practice? Are you grounding that into your daily existence? Because you don't get the benefit from therapy by just turning up. That's not how it works. It's about teaching you skills and implementing in your life, and that's shocking to a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah. Change. No one likes change.
Yeah.
We did touch about, like, as well, the transition that you make when you go from, like, going to the NHS for your, like, basic medical needs, stuff that you probably don't need to go to the NHS for, if you've got other alternatives, and then actually having trust in your body to heal, but also the trust in the oils and the product as well. Because like the society we're born into, we were given all of this, like, NHS pharmaceuticals, and people really love the NHS because they think it's the savior, which it has been in many, many cases. It's helped many, many people for different reasons, and it has saved a lot of lives. But we've forgot that actually we are our own saviors, and that we are here to do nothing but trust ourselves and heal ourselves. And as much as a lot of my holistic practices start with meditation and Reiki, which is something that you can't actually see, it can only be felt. For me, the oils give people who like a physical thing, and a physical, like, something physical to put on them or put in them. The oils are a really nice transit for people who are moving to a holistic healthcare package, who still want something to put on them or in them to make them feel better. But it's having the trust that that is going to be just as potent as working with a pharmaceutical. And that, for me, that can only be brought through, one, doing it, and two, sitting with people like us who have experienced it, who are saying, actually, this really did work for me. This is fine, that you can experience this, and it will work for you just as well as pharmaceuticals, if not better. And I've actually had quite a lot of my people who come to me for oils and things, that they come in and they're like blown away by how quick the oils have worked. And then they're like, I took the oil for this, but then this, and this happened. So it's the knock-on effect of what they've come to treat one thing with the oils, but actually they've also gained a whole bunch of more things. And it's
you touched on exactly what I was just about to say, that, like, people who like kind of engage with the oils on that physical level, that can be an introduction in, but then actually they're getting all of that kind of emotional and spiritual support alongside, and then that's kind of like pulling them in even more, isn't it? And then in that kind of benefit that they're receiving from that definitely.
Yeah, I think it's like we take a pharmaceutical because we've got a headache, but then if we take like peppermint because we've got a headache, then it's all of the other benefits that peppermint brings as well. Because it's not just about that one symptom. It works right the way through all of the energy bodies. And I think, what did you say today? And I didn't know this. Within 20 minutes, the oil would have affected
Yep,
every
same.
single cell in the body.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know that
absolutely.
until today. I thought that was quite incredible when you told us that today. I was like, oh, you see, always learning when it comes to these
It really
oils.
is,
Always
absolutely.
learning. And the final kind of point that I wanted to talk about, and this was something that we talked about a couple of weeks ago when we got our chat, was how many people talk about the how expensive the oils are.
Yeah.
That was my initial thing. I got connected with someone in Hawaii that told me all about the oils, and I was really, really interested in them. But then when I looked at the price of them, because I was still in that mindset and I didn't understand how they worked or why they were that beneficial to us, I was like, wow, they're expensive, not doing that. Obviously now, very, very different. And then we got talking about the American prescription service and how actually in comparison, the oils are way, way cheaper. And
Yeah,
that
we're protected from it at the minute, aren't we? The
Sorry?
NHS. Yeah, we're protected from it, aren't we, at the moment? Because the NHS, it's free at the
Now,
point of contact. Yeah, at the
witness,
moment, at this
hanging
point in
on.
time. But if I think about the American system and I think about how expensive healthcare is in America, I think, are we headed down the same path in terms of people's priorities who make the decisions about this country and its healthcare and where it's going? And I think one day, I think this will be everyone's go-to, because actually, in comparison to the prices of healthcare in America, doTERRA is really cheap, and I think because it might take that transition in the UK to happen before people really kind of truly realize the value of doTERRA, because at the moment they can pick up a prescription for kids it's free, but for adults it's what, like 9-10 quid, and people don't really bat an eyelid about that. But for double that, you can pick up the majority of the kind of oils. Not all of the expensive, like the kind of high-end ones, but because of the potency, you only need one drop. And I was saying to somebody today,
That's it. You're paying like £10 for sorry, go on.
I was going to say, frankincense. I use frankincense like nightly in my moisturizer. Some people don't bat an eyelid about spending 70 quid a month on a moisturizer themselves, but they'd look at a bottle of frankincense that could last them 6 months and go, oh, that's too expensive. Plus you get all the other properties, all the anti-inflammatory, all the cellular stuff, all of the neuro stuff that comes alongside using frankincense as well, not just good skin. So it matters to me, people's priorities and money and the oils, definitely.
Yeah. I completely agree with you in regards to that, because I used to happily spend £70 on a bottle of perfume. And then when I came to look at the price of these oils, I was like, can't be doing that. So there's something that's got to flip inside a person's mind from doing the societal spending because that's what the TV tells us, and then consciously spending because actually that's what's better for us. And I feel like the work that we're all doing right now is so important about speaking the truth in regards to how these oils and how holistic living benefits not just us, but our children and all of the people around us. Because as soon as we start sharing it and we share it from our heart, it naturally ripples out across everyone, because it takes one conversation with someone to go for them to then have a friend that might be suffering and be like, oh, actually, have you heard about these oils? That person in the middle might not have even heard of them or tried of them. But because they've heard a conversation happening around them, they are then opened to sharing them themselves. And I think the more we do have these really open conversations about the systems that we've been born into and the systems that are now coming through for us to actually thrive in, the more that the collective will actually realize that £70 for a little bottle of oil is not expensive, and actually it's a massive investment. And that's like even the Deep Blue, I think it's like what, £38 for a bottle, and it lasted me nearly 2 years, and I was using it almost daily. And I'm like, everyone should have a bottle of this. Like, what's that? 2 pizzas from Domino's. Like, it's an easy shift once we shift up that consciousness pattern. Once we decide that we're moving from societal to conscious awareness, it's an easy move to make in regards to making those purchases in a different direction.
Well, I don't think society's going to do it for us. Certainly the NHS isn't going to do it for us. This is a conversation we were having this morning. I was speaking to one of the doctors that I work with, and he's pretty open-minded, and he was saying that it's on an NHS level, on a societal level, it's not going to gain traction because you can't patent nature. You can't. The people with the money that benefit from the NHS in that way aren't going to invest money in it because they can't continue to line their back pockets with it. So this is about every individual seeing the value on an individual basis and spreading the word in that way, because I don't think the NHS is going to do that for us, because the system's too broken in that way, and it's not going to offer us a side effect free alternative to what they already offer, when what they already offer pays people's bills, because if that makes sense. So that's why it's important that we spread the word the way that we do, because I think it has to happen on that individual level for people to make those decisions about what they use to support their family and themselves.
Yeah, completely agree. I think that's about all I had to say on it. I could talk more forever and a
I
day.
think that's
we covered everything on our notes.
It's very fascinating to hear you chatting. I'd love to ask, like, in terms of pain outside of the Deep Blue, are there other oils that you work with in terms of physical pain, Erica, or is Deep Blue like the one?
Nope.
Physical.
Deep Blue is my go-to. I feel like I get everything I need from it. I've never needed to explore another one. Every now and then, if it's really, really bad, I'll put a drop of peppermint in with the Deep Blue, because that apparently like really activates it. And I know that Copaiba is meant to be really good in with it as well. But again, I've never needed to get to that level of thinking I need to put more and more oils into this to get it. It's potent enough. And one of the things that
do you use the oil and the rub, or
just the rub?
Just the rub, yeah.
Just the rub, and then I put a drop of peppermint oil in it now and then. But
so the only other blend. Sorry, Erica.
Go on. Go on, you go.
Sorry, you keep going really fast and then going like it cuts off. My internet's going funny, so I'll keep interrupting you. So I'm sorry. I think it was in Oil Camp. They did like a light blue blend, and you mix the deep blue with Copaiba and frankincense. I find that like amazing, especially for like period pain and stuff. But again, it's similar to the frankincense amplifies things in the same way that the peppermint does, especially if you add heat to that, it will really push it into the body. So and I think they've added Copaiba to the deep blue blend now, haven't they?
It's in the blend now. Yeah, they added it in just because of that way that it amplifies it, and even it will be in the rub and things as well. Yeah.
So one of the other things that I do when I'm working with the Deep Blue, just because my other modalities of healing is in the quantum fields, is I'll actually work with the rub, and then I'll tune in, and I can actually tune right into the particular like muscles or tendons just through the mind's eye, and work the medicines in that way as well. So I work with the actual energy of it. So it's not just at a surface level, but actually really kind of get into those bits, and it will release. It just releases as I get in deeper and deeper on a muscular level.
I think it's amazing when you work with the Deep Blue and the rub, when you can feel it moving through, like you say. And when you were talking about like you could feel it like releasing the legs. I can really relate to that when I've worked with it, like in different areas. You can, if you actually kind of get really present with it, it's absolutely so potent. It's incredible. And I've loved hearing you guys chat about this, and I love just shining that light on the reality that actually everything that we're manifesting in our physical experience, any kind of pain, it actually all comes back to the emotional side of things and the beliefs around those things, and just how powerful it is to just speak that truth of like, actually we can take responsibility for ourselves. I think something that you said really landed about like how we're underdiagnosed
Or prescribed and
overprescribed.
underdiagnosed.
Yeah, it's like, it's so true, and we actually have to come back to like looking into ourselves and seeing how we can support ourselves. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
really, really beautiful session. So I'm going to wrap up the recording, but then we can open it up if anyone on the live is going to want to ask any questions. But I'll just say thank you so much to everyone who's been on live. Thank you to Jo and Erica for sharing all of this incredible wisdom and this, like, yeah, your amazing stories of everything that you kind of know and see. And for anyone who is watching this on the live, just know that in a few days' time we're going to have our menopause masterclass. And for anyone on the replay, just make sure that you're checking back to wherever you're catching the replays, and you can pick that one up as well. So I'm going to stop the recording.